Hey, welcome to the Ozzstar Cars channel. I'm Glenn, and today I'm going to talk about hand safety. So it's very important if you're working on a car, or no matter what you're working on actually, that you protect your hands. There's all different types of ways to do it. Of course, the number one way is to use your brain. That's always important because that can prevent a lot of injuries right there. And I'm going to go over a few things that I use around here to prevent that and keep all 10 digits. You see I'm already gloved up. Well, that's one way. Why don't we get down here to the bench? I want to show you a few different types of gloves that can help you out.
Now, there's a lot of different types of gloves for all different types of trades and jobs that you're doing, but we're just going to primarily focus on what I use for car stuff. And if anybody's wondering who that is, well, that's Chaos. You definitely don't want him around, that's for sure. Anyway, he's in a lot of my older videos, and yeah, he'll cause you problems. So let's avoid him and let's talk about what we got here. So these gloves right here are heavy type of leather gloves, and they're really good. I'll use them if I'm working on suspensions or yanking rotor or something like that. Not necessarily keep your hands clean, which will do to some degree, but it protects your hands from getting chafed or sliced open. And they're a little bit cumbersome and bulky. So what I'll use is these here. Eastwood had sent me these. These work out really good. These have like a man-made leather type of material, but the nice thing about them is they're very form-fitting. So if I'm doing more intricate work, suspension work or what have you, exhaust work maybe, if the pipes are cold, I'll use these. So I use these a lot. They're nice. Rob, a YouTuber here, he had sent me these gloves, and I've used them once or twice, nothing heavy. They do work good. They're cutoffs, as you can see. It's not, to be a joke, make a joke of an amputee or something, because let's face it, this video is part of that. You can lose a finger. You got to be careful. So these two are exposed, and so is the thumb, and that gives you really good dexterity, because if you need to work on something that's fine or small, you need that. So that's those, and I'll demonstrate these in a minute. Now these two types here are really amazing. They're both made of Kevlar, and a friend of mine that worked at the Wilmington General Motors plant before they closed it and bulldozed it, he gave me these, and the nice thing is they have some awesome ability to prevent cuts and burns, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you. And then we've got these nitrile type of gloves, and lately on the market they're so inexpensive. Years ago, I'll be honest, 20, 30, 5 years ago, I was working on cars since I'm a teenager. We didn't use them. I don't know if they weren't readily available or nobody talked about it, but there's so many toxins in fluids, whether it's oil, transmission fluid, gear oil, whatever. Never mind, you take them off and your hands are fairly clean. These really protect you. This is a 9 mil, so these are a little bit thicker than these 5 mil. These tend to break easily. So if you're working on something that's rough, your fingers are probably going to pop out, or they're just going to burst. I don't know how they do it, but they just rip open. Anybody that's used them knows what I'm talking about. They're good for light duty, even if you're doing some painting work or dealing with sealants, that kind of thing. These are great. When I'm doing heavier work, I'll definitely use these, especially for oil changes and stuff like that. Anyway, what I want to do is I'm going to demonstrate some of these gloves. Here's an old one. And well, why don't I put this one on and show you what I mean with it.
And here's what I want to demonstrate with you, which this glove is very similar to this kind of glove. It's just older, worn out. And here's the problem. You see this right here? So we've got a hole. The glove, if your glove has a hole, and I'm completely guilty of this, and if this has happened to you, please let me know down below, because every time I get lazy and think, well, I don't want to spend another $10, $15, $20 on a pair of gloves, it bites me. Because this sucker right there, I don't care if the hole's here, it's over here, wherever the hole is, because your gloves will wear out, you will get sliced on that spot. I almost guarantee it. No matter what you're doing, you will go to do whatever it is, grab it, and it will cut you right where that open spot is. Never fails. I have learned in my older age, in my wisdom here, when this happens, I throw this right in the garbage. This is where it's going right now. I saved it because a few weeks ago I thought about this video, and I think it would be a great idea to try to help people out, especially if they don't have experience. Anyway, that's where this goes, right into the garbage, and then you get yourself a nice newer pair. and you're all set. So let me demonstrate this one here, the cutoff. Like I was talking about earlier, these can come in very handy. And the other nice thing is when they have these Velcro straps, because it kind of protects your wrist. But if you're doing intricate, like let's say you're putting a water pump in and you have small bolts and you got to get down in there, if you have that larger glove, I'm not saying it's impossible to do, but it makes the job very difficult. But what's nice is as you're sliding your hand down in that engine compartment or wherever you're working around the transmission, whatever it is, you know, you've got one of those hose clamps sticking out, especially the worm type, the screw type, where the little piece of metal comes out. Well, the back, usually what happens is you get sliced back here somewhere. Well, this gives you full protection while you're doing that kind of work, and you can still have the dexterity to, you know, twist on another bolt or take out another bolt, whatever you're doing there. So that one works really cool. I think most everybody nowadays is familiar with the nitrile gloves. The 9mm is the way to go because these will last. These are great against chemicals. You're dealing with brake fluid. Back in the day, you did oil changes. We just dropped the oil and the oil just running all over the place. Never mind, you stink like oil. You've got all those toxins in there, and we know that can be cancerous. That's not good at all. So keep that stuff out of your skin. Let's say you're doing a brake job or something. You got brake clean. You got all kinds of chemicals. Keep it out of your skin. Now here's something I just noticed on this one. So there's that little, look, see there's a hole in it. I've got a hole in my glove, so that's not good. So what we want to do is take this off, throw it out, and get another one. These have come down in price. They're so cheap, especially these thinner guys here. Now see, when you have a hole in one of these, you're probably not working on anything too heavy duty, but you're dealing with those chemicals. Once again, the chemicals getting through, it's getting in there, and you're going to get it on your skin, and it's going to get absorbed into your bloodstream, which is no good. And these are super great for you know, light duty jobs. So you buy a pair, you know what you do is you get experience with these kind of gloves. You buy them, you try them as you're doing work, and then you know sort of the limit, how far you can go in a job before these things blow out. And trust me, like I said earlier, they just pop. So what I want to do now is, which is kind of cool, these are the Kevlar deals. I'm going to, well, let's do the cut demonstration first. So I'll put a little clause right here, stop the video. If you've got a glove, don't do this at home unless it's Kevlar, I guess. Where's my knife? I put my knife up here somewhere. Oh, where did it go? Oh, here it is. I want to show you something here. So I've got my trusty hunting knife. I've had this sucker a long time. Let me tell you something. This thing is sharp. I'll prove it to you. I brought this piece of paper just so you can see. If you don't know much about knives, if it can't cut a piece of paper like that, then it's not sharp. So it should slice, you know, right through it. But this is not a knife video. This is about sharpness and cuts. So probably the most common thing, I'm looking at the car over here, that happens is you're going to get sliced. You can get worse injuries, but let me get the phone and I'll be right back. By the way, I grabbed a hose clamp. So whether it's on an intake tube or a hose, a coolant hose, this is what I'm talking about if you're not familiar. This thing right here, these things will slice you. Wire ties, zip ties you can call them. People cut them. They don't cut them short. They got that sharp little edge. These kind of gloves will save the day. But anyway, so will these, and let me show you why. These are extra special. Like I said, these have Kevlar in them, and you saw how sharp this knife is. Well, you wouldn't want to try this. I wouldn't try it with the leather glove. It'll probably cut through it, but you're not going to know how much pressure, and I'm about to do this, and it seems crazy, and I've had friends do it. I've had them over here and say, take this knife or any knife actually, and try to cut me, and it's the creepiest thing. But as I'm drawing this across, I'll let you hear it. I am putting pressure down on here. Okay, listen. You would not want to do this any other way. Okay? So it doesn't even phase it. Kevlar is made by DuPont, or at least that's the trademark. Bulletproof. So they say. So they make bulletproof vests out of Kevlar. You know, one of the few things they do. Anyway, it's super resistant to cuts. Now, that makes it fantastic for any sheet metal work you might be doing on the car, or anything for that matter, any type of metal work where you've got, let's say, heat shields and stuff like that that are sharp, they have a sharp edge. Well, these are great for handling that. The other awesome thing about them is, and what I'll do is I got this temperature gun right here. I'm gonna fire up the space heater I use here in the shop, and I'm gonna show you how heat resistant these things are. So if you got a car that comes in off the road, you gotta get to work on it right away. You don't have time to let it cool down. You gotta get in there, it's hot. You put these on, you have good dexterity because they're, especially these yellow ones here, they're super thin, and you can grab onto stuff, and the heat does not penetrate through like it would barehanded, I guess you could call it. So you will feel some heat, don't get me wrong, but if you're on a, let's say a hot exhaust pipe, you know, you're testing something, I don't know, you're checking the fitting or something, you gotta touch a hot pipe, and I don't mean like 1,000 degrees, you wouldn't wanna touch it, but let's say it's sat for a couple minutes and the pipe's a couple hundred degrees, few hundred degrees, you can actually grab on with these and you won't burn yourself. So here's our space heater. I'm gonna fire that up in a second. It's just kind of noisy when the fan's running, so I want you to hear me. So here's our Kevlar glove, and I've got my thermometer. Let's see what kind of temperature I have right now. So hopefully you'll be able to see this digital screen, but what did it say, 67? Can you see that? That's Fahrenheit. What is it for our metric friends? 18.8 Celsius. So we're high tech here. Anyway, so you see what my hand is right now. So this is, you know, fairly cool. It's probably 45 degrees here in the shop. Let me fire this up, and hopefully you'll hear me all right. I've got the camera back a little bit of distance so nothing melts. I want this to glow. This thing will get literally red hot, and then we're gonna put the thermometer on there. So we're cherry hot now. You can see that orange glow in there. And I've got my tester thermometer going here. We're about, I'd say about 492 degrees right there. You can see that Celsius, 255. So what I'll do now is, and like I say, you better have the right gloves to do this. I'm going to actually just put my hand, this front, by the way, this mesh is metal. And I'm just going to hold my hand on there, and I'm going to do a play-by-play as far as what I feel and how it's feeling. Of course, I would never do this barehanded at 500 degrees. That would be instant hamburger. So my hand is on here. You can hear it. I'm not in the shot. Okay. I'm trying to keep my leg out of there. And so if I was grabbing something hot right now, like an exhaust manifold or an exhaust pipe, you know, I could actually touch it for a minute. I don't know how long. So I'm feeling it now. It's getting pretty toasty right now. I'm gonna take my hand away. My hand is getting warm. Let's see what it is. And you can see right there. Let me hold it steady. So it's about 167. What was it? 163 at that point is what my hand is. So this is nice and toasty. Now obviously, let's say in your house you had 140 degrees of hot water. I mean, your skin would just cook right off. I mean, that's dangerous, especially for kids. But anyway, let me take this glove off, and you can see there's nothing wrong with my hand. So it gives you some time to work on hot objects that you may not otherwise be able to do. In the garbage it goes. There's that one, and then that nitrile with the hole in the end, garbage. So you can see, like, let's say this used oil filter, how the contaminants from the oil are not getting on our skin, which damages it, and then it's definitely not getting absorbed into our bloodstream. So these things are very nice, and then when you're done, you can peel them off and your hands are pretty much clean, which is another benefit, and your wife won't complain that you smell like an old engine because the oil's not on your skin. But anyway, when you're done, sometimes you can use these more than once if they don't rip, if you clean them up. Otherwise, throw them in the garbage. They're cheap enough, and your health is worth, you know, much more than a few cents of these gloves here. So you've been wearing your gloves and you protected your hands, you know, the particular glove for the job, whether it's against chemicals, burning the skin, abrasions, bruising, cuts, scrapes, all that nastiness that you don't want. So what do then? You need to maintain your hands basically, because let's face it, if you cut your hand, even a small cut or burn I've had, and then you need to do a job, sometimes, I mean, it's brutal. It can actually affect your whole day, make your life miserable until that thing heals. So you want to prevent damage or injury from the beginning. And what I do is, I use certain hand cleaners because let's face it, your hands are going to get dirty. And I'm going to show you that in a second. And I also use, oh boy, I can see the comments already. Leave them down below after you hear this statement. And I also use certain hand lotions and skin creams, okay? Beauty products, that's right. You go ahead, leave that comment right down below. Let me show you what I use over here on the bench. So here's a soap that I've recently come to start using, a hand soap, work soap, which is awesome. These guys over at Full Bore, they actually sent me some samples. And they have, what's interesting, what they have with their soaps is it's not petroleum based, or petroleum distillates, I guess you call it, which is a solvent, which is kind of like anything you'd use to clean something chemically, right? Well, there's actually lotions and stuff built into their product. They have different grades, like this green one here is their extreme green, super grit, and then this hand scrub I like because it's more liquidy. That's kind of dry almost, and you mix it with water. But this stuff works great. They didn't pay me to say that. I tried the product. It's been about 4 months. It is probably the best soap I use for getting grease and stuff. It just comes right off. I'm not going to demonstrate that for you. You know how to wash your hands. But really nice product and leaves a good feeling after you do it because it's not dry. Your skin isn't dried out. So what I use is this Eucerin. Is it coming up? There it is. I like this. It's like a cream kind of product on there. It really softens your skin because if your skin does get dried out on your hands and you're working, it's more easily going to get cut and scraped and crack, which hurts. And then you got the good old Jergens. So here you go. You get a big bottle of this. You just squirt out a handful of that, slap it on, and you're good to go. There you go. Leave your comment down below. Oh, it feels better already. So anyhow, oh God, I love making videos. So thanks for joining along here. I hope this video was helpful to you. Maybe you picked something up or learned something new. That would be great. Leave me a comment down below. And subscribe if you haven't. If you may have not, or you may have noticed now, I've got the new name here, Ozzstar's Cars. Same old channel, same great flavor, something like that. So smash the subscribe button if you haven't. And other than that, I appreciate you stopping in. Instagram is Ozzstar1 with the number 1 after it. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.